Good evening, and thanks for joining us here at the Guildhall this evening for what we think is going to be a very special event. In addition to launching our report celebrating the first 3 years of our Tobacco Harm Reduction Scholarship Programme, the KAC team also want to take the opportunity to remember our colleague Kevin, who died in July this year. Kevin's knowledge, experience and wisdom made him the perfect candidate to develop and lead the scholarship programme. Inspiring the next generation of harm reductionists in a field which has the potential to change so many millions of lives for the better. He saw the programme through its early stages, recruiting participants and supporting their development, as well as recruiting a team of mentors to assist him in this. Before talking about the programme and introducing our guest speakers, who will each reflect on what it means to them, I'd just like to take a few moments to talk about Kevin on a personal level. I first met him in 1995. I know I don't look that old, but when we both worked for Cranston Drug Services, and we remained friends and intermittently colleagues, including from 2018 at KAC up until his untimely death. Kevin was a warm, compassionate and highly skilled individual. His versatility saw him achieve success in a number of fields, ranging from drug treatment and harm reduction through the development and management of complex organisations, working with troubled veterans from the armed forces, to music and acting, including an appearance in a Hollywood blockbuster, which some of you will already know, no doubt. He was a monster in The Fifth Element. In all his endeavours, he drew upon his own life experience and exuded calm, always supportive of colleagues and clients alike. His insight and approach to problem solving are some things I know that I and other colleagues in KAC miss, and his contribution to our work will never, ever be forgotten. Kevin was a proud Brummie and a lifelong supporter of Aston Villa. As an Everton fan, I was always comforted to share with him the if only and what might have been school of football support. In his youth, he was a keen sportsman and played both rugby and football to a high standard. And I believe his experience of teamwork in these environments served him well in his career and earned him the respect of his colleagues throughout. He was devoted to his wife Anne and immensely proud of his 2 children, Lottie and Jake, and I'm delighted that they're able to join us this evening for this celebration. Following a work trip to India, Kevin was diagnosed with cancer late in 2019. From the outset, he was determined to carry on working and living life to the full. He continued to work with KAC right up until the point when the disease prevented him from doing so. His loss is felt by many people, including the individual scholars and mentors who he nurtured. And I'm pleased that there are some here today to share in this celebration and commemoration. You can see more about Kevin's life in an obituary which fortunately appeared this week in the Guardian newspaper and was written by my colleague Jon Derricott, and it's well worth a read. And edited highlights of it is actually in the report that we're publishing today. I remember him as someone who lived life to the full, who was a willing and constant source of support and inspiration, but most of all, as a true friend. So before I introduce the other speakers, can I ask everybody to raise a glass and toast his memory to Kevin. I'd now like to introduce the first of our speakers this evening, and that is Jon Derricott. Jon is the current manager of the Tobacco Harm Reduction Scholarship Programme, and he worked closely with Kevin in its development.
Thank you, Paddy. And just before I start, Chim Wenwe Ngoma, who's in Malawi and couldn't be with us tonight, is watching this now by the wonder of WhatsApp. So if we can just say hello to Chim. He's just over there. If you can wave to Chim. And Chim has been working with me to run the scholarship program for the last 6 or 7 months. I worked closely with Kevin. I miss him. Miss his quiet brilliance and insight every day. A huge, huge loss to all of us. And he had a hand in this as well. This report was developed by lots of people. Lots of people had a hand in it. Paddy wrote some of it. Jerry wrote some of it. I think, I was trying to talk to Ollie earlier, I think I might have written some of it. I can't actually remember. It was long in the gestation. Kevin wrote some of it.
Next up, I'm delighted to introduce one of our scholars who's with us this evening, Will Godfrey, who, despite being English, is the editor-in-chief of Filter magazine, which is produced in the United States. And he was one of our first scholars and completed the scholarship program. And I hope what he says can give you some idea of the kind of impact that being a scholar can have. So, Will, if you'd like to replace me.
Good evening, everyone. Well, I'll keep it short, but very much from the heart. So yeah, I run Filter, an online magazine that launched a few years ago covering drugs and drug policy through a harm reduction lens. And I must say that both I and my organisation are profoundly indebted to this programme, from which I learned so much and which has given me so much support in publishing, hopefully, good quality journalism about THR. I've been involved in the scholarship programme every which way. Actually, I'm now a mentor to 2 current scholars. Before that, I was in the enhanced scholarship programme, doing a project about THR in Asia under the expert guidance of Jon. And before that, I was, as Paddy said, one of the original cohort of THR scholars, even before my publication launched. And that's when I have to stop and talk about Kevin. What a lovely guy. The first thing I noticed about him, because it was immediately palpable, was just his warmth and humanity. As the days passed, it very quickly became clear that he also had superhuman patience, as he held my hand and several others besides through some early uncertain steps. He had a lot of knowledge about this field that he always shared generously but wore lightly. And although I only knew him through this field, he would occasionally give me glimpses of an incredible other life, like the time he whipped out his phone and started playing this old music video by a band that I used to like in my youth called Suede. And closer inspection showed that the lead character, clad in what looked like a sort of white body stocking, was none other than Kevin himself. He was a wonderful man and will be sadly missed by everyone who knew him. But I can think of no more appropriate tribute than to see the program that he helped to start growing and thriving to this day, and I'm sure for many years to come. So thank you, Kevin, and thank you to everyone at KAC and to the Foundation for the scholarship program.
So I'd like to invite Ehsan Nadelmann to come up on stage and tell us why he's accepted the offer to be the patron.
Okay, well, thank you, Paddy. And I have to say, just hearing this, it's a real regret not to have known Kevin. I mean, sounds really quite extraordinary and quite the right person to have launched this whole thing.
It's a great pleasure now to hand over to Dr. Ehsan Latif, who is the Vice President of the Foundation for a Smoke-Free World.
But tonight it's all about Kevin and the program that he established, conceptualized, led, implemented, and what a great work that he has done. And I was tasked with monitoring Kevin, which was not a task I enjoyed at the beginning. Because as soon as I started approaching Kevin and saying, Kevin, you need to give me a progress report. I need to send it to my superiors. And soon I learned that it was Kevin who was monitoring me rather than the other way around. Because he in his own way would tell me what to monitor, what to say, how to write it. And I became the student. Instead of monitoring Kevin and his program, I was learning from him, which I've used for the other organizations we are working on, how to really lead and develop a scholarship program. So thank you to Kevin for doing that for us. To honor Kevin and his memory and the work that he has done, we are announcing today that we will be issuing scholarships in Kevin's name. I'm getting a bit emotional because this is a big thing for all of us. So we are announcing 4 scholarships for career development in Kevin's name, which will not be restricted to 4. It will be expanded, I hope, and I will be able to convince my seniors to continue funding this program because we love Kevin, we continue to love Kevin, and we'll continue to work with it. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Ehsan. I think that the new fellowships, as we will call them, are a wonderful and fitting tribute to Kevin and his work. And KAC will make sure they're used effectively to advance the cause of tobacco harm reduction.